Good Monday morning. It is May 16th, 2016. You're tuned to WKRK 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, cable 25, and worldwide at country.am. And on Mondays, we have the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office with us, and usually it is the sheriff himself, Derek Palmer. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Tim?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, I hadn't seen you in a while. I thought you were avoiding me there for a little bit.
We've talked on text and phone, but not in person lately. So good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
All right. It's been a pretty active, busy week this week. I know you've been working a lot more than probably normal.
Yeah, it's been pretty busy this week. We had the shooter incident that happened here in Murphy.
And that happened on Tuesday, I believe.
I believe it was. All my days run together. I come in a lot of times and work nights also and help answer calls and things that are out there. And so my days and nights kind of run together and my days kind of overlap sometimes.
And the suspect, he was captured that day. His name was Brian Crisp.
That's true.
And he was captured in Polk County, Tennessee. Has he been transferred to Cherokee County at this time?
He has not. He refused to waive extradition, and we're having to go through the proper channels to get him back to North Carolina. We have to go through a governor's warrant. The governor has to request for him to come back. So
how does that work? That was actually my question. Yeah. What is that process to get him moved from Polk County to Cherokee County?
What happens is people can voluntarily, if you're arrested in another state on an out-of-state warrant, you can voluntarily come back if you choose to, and it's called a waiver of extradition. You just waive it, say, yeah, I'll go back, and volunteer to do that. If you refuse to waive that extradition and won't go back to the state where the warrant was originated in, then it takes that state's governor to send a warrant to the governor of the state that's holding the prisoner to request a transfer back, where they can actually transfer him back. By the two governors can do that. And that's a pretty standard process throughout the nation.
Is that a timely process?
It can take about 10 days or so.
10 days?
Yeah.
That's one of the problems here, being right here on the state line.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm guessing from his standpoint, he's facing lesser charges in Tennessee than he is in North Carolina. He has murder charges here.
He has a murder charge here, but he was arrested for some other things in Tennessee, as far as I know there was some methamphetamine charges and some other things that was there in Tennessee when they caught him. But I think the major charges here in North Carolina, and what will happen is those governors, when they send those warrants back and forth to each other, then they make a determination of which state has the greatest charge and has the priority. And so with a murder charge, he'll be coming back to North Carolina to face charges here first. And then once he's cleared up here, then he would go back to Tennessee to face their charges.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I know that was a very busy day. I was following along and trying to get as much information out to the public, and those are days when our Facebook page literally blow up, people asking questions, and we don't always have the answers.
Well, and a lot of times we don't have the answers either at the time. I mean, we're talking to people, we're gathering information, we're trying to figure out who we're looking for. We're looking for different vehicles, depending on what descriptions we get, different clothing descriptions. There was a period of time where he was believed to be on foot, so we were having to do things like lock the local schools down and things of that nature. The elementary school was just across the river, from where this incident happened. So we were trying to get the process to get that school locked down in case he was on foot. You had the learning center, which was on the other side, trying to get it locked down. And so there's just a million things that have to be done during that time to keep the public safe. And a lot of times when you're dealing with these things, people approach you on the street and they want to ask you questions or what's going on. And sometimes people feel like you're being rude to them by not talking with them. But there is a process you have to go through, and every second that ticks away is a second that you get information out there to get the perpetrator caught. Right. One of the things that got the subject caught in Tennessee was getting that information quickly, getting it out there quickly, getting it spread, disseminated to our surrounding counties, and getting that out there so those officers know what to be looking for.
Right.
And what happens is we had information that he was here still in Cherokee County for a while, and we were looking for the vehicle and for the information here, but we were also in a hurry to try to get the information disseminated out to Tennessee and to Georgia. Right. And because we did that relatively quickly and got that out there quickly, officers in Tennessee and in Georgia were looking for him. And so once the vehicle passed a police officer, they spotted it and realized that was him. That was the person we were looking for.
All right. What is the process of getting that kind of information out to the public and the media and things like that. I know you have so much going on, and you're trying to get the job done.
Right.
And you probably have every media outlet trying to contact you.
Well, I do, and first the sheriff's position, we do have a lot of people trying to contact me and trying to acquire that information.
And I was one of those.
Right.
Yes.
And so what we do is through our dispatch center, we have a media page out through the dispatch center, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing because when they put that information out as to what we're looking for and what's going on to the media, that goes both locally and regionally.
Right.
So once that goes out, then I start receiving calls from like TV3 out of Chattanooga and Channel 9 and 13 WLOS. And
you kind of want to resist putting that notification out.
Right. But on a situation like this, it was imperative that we got that out there so people would know what was going on. And along with that, like TV4, for example, I took a few minutes just to meet Ralph down at TV4 in the midst of all this. Just to drop in real quickly, just give a statement as to what who we were looking for, what kind of vehicle we were looking for, so they could put that out on TV quickly so people could see that. And the purpose of that is to get that information out there, kind of like an Amber Alert or something where when citizens see it, they know we're looking for a certain vehicle or a certain person, and if they see them, they can call in and let us know where they're at.
Was the Code Red system used during this event?
It was. What happens with that is the school resource officers and school administration, they go through that lockdown process, and they have different levels of that lockdown.
Right.
They initially went into what they call a soft lockdown, which just means get everybody off the playground, get them in the buildings, get the doors locked, things of that nature. Then if we have information the suspects in or around the school or near the school, then they would go into that Code Red hard lockdown at that point. So our first step is just getting everybody inside, getting the doors locked.
Right.
And then in the event that it looked like the suspect was any closer to the schools or going in the direction of the schools or whatever, then we go into a little bit harder lockdown at that point, just to make sure people are hiding, they're away from windows, all those kind of things that goes on with it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm also working with our superintendent as far as getting notifications for when schools go on lockdown, because we weren't and they were overwhelmed as well, because no matter how many times you prepare for something, until it actually happens, you have so many things to take care of at one time.
Right. Well, the school had another incident going on at the time, which brought a little bit more confusion in the situation at a different school, where officers, resource officers, were responding to it. So there was some confusion as to which school the perpetrator was near on our charges.
Right.
And so that brought another added dimension into that. And so, like I say, it's just a lot of confusion when these things initially start and trying to get those situated. But our officers did very well. This was actually a Murphy Police Department case. They're actually the ones investigating it and charging on this. But anytime we have a major event happen, we all want to jump in there together and pitch in and help one another out. And so all of our officers did a great job. They worked well together, got the information, got it documented, got it out, and subsequently got the perpetrator caught within a couple hours. So that was a good go with that.
Were you able to retrace his getaway path? Which
somewhat, but we weren't able to get a lot of information because once he got gone, some people who did see him, who were with him, who knew kind of what was going on, did give us some information. But a lot of that stuff is just unknown, and we did get reports of different places throughout the county where he was seen and located because of this information we were getting out. But was able to get out of those areas before we could get officers to those areas, and it's one of the reasons why it's so important to get that information out to all the surrounding counties.
How helpful was the community as far as spotting these? Did you receive many phone calls saying, I've seen this vehicle?
We did. We received a lot of phone calls, a lot of suspect descriptions and things of that nature. And sometimes people will call in and it's not even the person you're looking for, but they call in because they see a suspicious person or someone matching the description. This possibly could be him. So anytime we have these type of tips, we have to follow through with that, and we have to go and see whether this is the person we're looking for or not. But we do get quite a bit of public participation on that. And 911 Center gets a lot of calls during those events.
I was going to say, on the other hand, where the public can be helpful, too, there's also instances when they can also be hurtful by tying up emergency lines during this, just asking general questions.
Right.
Can you explain to folks when to use 911 and when not to?
Well, one of the things I'll always tell people is use 911 when it's an emergency. When you've got something that needs to be addressed right now, right at this moment. If you see a suspect or if we're looking for someone, you have some information where they might be, or saw that vehicle a few minutes ago or something like that, that is not an emergency right at this moment, we ask that people use the non-emergency lines for that, for calling the dispatch center to the sheriff's office or the police department or whatever's local to them, to call in to give that information, because you do tie up those 911 lines for emergency calls. And people also need to remember that during these events, we still have people having heart attacks. We still have people with other emergencies. Breaking and enterings are still happening. People are still being assaulted and hurting during these events in different areas of the county. So those 911 lines need to remain open for emergencies only.
How many simultaneous 911 calls can happen here in Cherokee County at one time? How many people can call in at once and be handled?
Well, the thing about it is our center has the capability of handling multiple calls coming in. But at most times we have two dispatchers in that center, and in the daytime a lot of times we have a third dispatcher of administration that can sit at a console. But you can only handle as many calls as there are people to talk to them.
Exactly.
And so it really doesn't matter if there's 10 911 lines ringing. It takes that dispatch center, the people operating there, to determine what's emergency and what's not emergency.
And when there's emergencies, those dispatchers are working nonstop.
Crazy. It's unreal.
And they sometimes have to pay people on hold. Some people say the dispatch can be rude, but they have so much that they're doing and trying to save lives. They can't always just have conversations.
And we see that a lot, especially during wintertime when we have snow events, where we have a lot of people sliding off roadways and wrecking and things of that nature. People will call in and say, well, the dispatcher's rude to me. But you may be calling in about an accident where no one's hurt. And in the meantime, while they're talking to you, the 911 is still ringing with other calls coming in. So they're trying to get people off the phone very quickly, so they can get to that next 911 call, because it could potentially be a robbery, or it could be a shooting, or it could be someone having a heart attack, or it could be someone having a stroke. And so they're trying to get people off these phones very quickly so they can address emergencies that are coming in. And there's a fine line between being expedient and being rude. And sometimes dispatchers do have to get rude. Sometimes they have to get rude with people to get those lines freed up.
They just have to do the job efficiently.
And so sometimes it does take that to get the phone line cleared up where they can answer that next call. I know during one of those snow events last year that we had, I think in a matter of I don't remember how many it was now. It was like in a matter of an hour, they had like a couple hundred calls over 911, and so when you got 200 calls an hour coming in, it's hard to get through all those things and decipher what's emergencies and what isn't, and getting the appropriate people paged out to those emergencies.
How advanced is the technology now? So if someone calls 911 from their home phone or cell phone, how good is 911 at targeting the location of that caller?
It depends. Your 911 from your home lines are very good. We can know exactly where those are coming from. Cell phones, we can pinpoint those down to a certain area a lot of times through triangulation of cell towers and those type of things. One of the problems is when we get like prepaid cell phones and we get these things where you can put your own numbers in, and those kind of things. A lot of times when it goes back to track those type of phones, it's hard to track them down and hard to know who they belong to and who owns them and things of that nature. Because a lot of times, even with the cell phone, you may get the owner's name with that cell phone. Like if it's Verizon, you may get their name of the person that owns that phone, and even though you can't triangulate it, we can cross-reference through our CAD system and stuff, and that name through Cherokee County and see where they live, see where they work, those type of things. And so we can go to that place of business or go to that home, and a lot of times we find people that way, that even though we don't know where that cell phone is, we can go to their home or go to their place of business, and they can say, yeah, they're at Walmart right now, or yeah, they're here or they're there. And so that way we find a lot of people that way also. But a lot with these prepaid phones, those are a little bit more difficult to track down.
If people have their GPS on their phone turned on, does that help locate rather than using cell tower triangulation?
It does. We can GPS phones through the phone company, and we also do triangulation through the phone company. And we have to have reasons for that. We don't just take a cell phone at random and want to know where it's at. But as long as we have a case number, we have a reason, we have an emergency that we're looking for someone, phone companies will go back and will triangulate those things and GPS those phones and find out where they're at for us.
I do notice when I'm using like the Maps program to find my location, if I have my GPS off and using just the cell phone towers, it's pretty far off a lot of times. If I turn the GPS on, it's like it will show me what room of the house I'm in or whatever. It's
and a lot of times, like you say, they will show you just an area. They'll show you within a square mile or within 100 yards of where the phone's at. And we use that a lot of times, if we have missing people or if we have people that has crashed or something, or in a wreck somewhere. If their phones are still on and the dispatcher's not able to determine where they are, they can go back through that triangulation and get a general area of where that phone is a lot of times if the GPS is off.
Speaking of technology, recently a 20-year-old violated bond conditions, and that included him wearing a electronic monitoring, an ankle bracelet, and he was able to disable that and cut it off his ankle.
Right.
Tell us about the technology used there and how hard is it to do that?
Well, it goes a lot on those GPS tracking also. That's how they monitor those ankle bracelets. But what happens is when you cut those monitor systems off, it's made to where the circuitry goes through the entire collar.
Right.
And so if you cut the collar off or disable the collar, take it apart, anything like that, it sets off an alert. Most of the time it's through probation parole. They're usually the people that is in charge of this, of the tracking. And so it sends them an alert that collar has been taken off or it's been broken or damaged or disabled. And so there's an immediate alert goes out at that point. And then either officers are dispatched to that or the probation officers themselves go and try to locate that person that took that off.
Was he able to outsmart the system or was there a malfunctioning device?
No, he from best of my knowledge, did intentionally disable the device and take it off. We did have him apprehended and back in custody within about 15 minutes of taking it off. So,
all right, that's the first case I've read about that is ankle bracelets. Is that used a lot in our area?
It can be. We don't see it a whole lot, but it has been used frequently in the area.
Okay. Yeah. Have you had pretty good response from it?
Most people who wear them comply with it. They know the alternative is going to jail. So most people that are on the monitoring system do comply with the monitoring system.
So he's in pretty much big trouble now after doing that.
Pretty much, and there's going to be some restitution to pay for damaging it, I'm sure.
All right. We've had a lot of people in our area. I've seen several police departments and sheriff's office post on Facebook. A lot of phone numbers in our area being targeted with the IRS scams.
Right. Yeah, this is something that's been ongoing for years now, and it's continued to go, and we can't stress this to people enough that the IRS does not use telephone. They do not call people up and threaten them, things of that nature. So if you get those calls that somebody's telling you you're going to go to jail or they're threatening you if you don't pay them money or call me back and here's a number to call, have your ID number ready or whatever, just don't call them back. Don't mess with them because it's nothing but a scam. The money goes overseas. It goes to places we can't track. And it goes to a lot of terrorist organizations and stuff in the Middle East and overseas. So once you send that money, once you send it in, there's nothing we can do about it at that point. It's just gone.
I've actually gotten to the point because there are so many phone scams now. If I don't recognize the number, I just let it go to voicemail. And if it's important, they can leave a message and I call back. I usually Google the phone number as soon as I send it to voicemail.
Right.
And there's usually a lot of scam reports on Google if you
Well, a lot of it is rerouting numbers. People need to understand that also because it does show up a United States number. A lot of times there are different area codes on there, but they're rerouting numbers that reroutes your call overseas or reroutes the overseas call to you. So if you even try to call these numbers back a lot of times, sometimes you get people answer, sometimes the person that called will answer. But you must understand that you're not dealing with anyone in the United States. You're dealing with someone overseas when you call those numbers back.
All right. Yesterday was National Peace Officer Memorial Day, and this is National Police Week. What does that mean to you in law enforcement?
Well, it's just a time that we think about those who have fallen, those that we remember that was killed in the line of duty. It's a time that we think about, quite frankly, our own mortality and what we're doing and of trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing as police officers, that we are honoring those who have sacrificed themselves or given their lives to protect people. And we talk a lot and we think a lot about the military and what they do for us, and rightfully so. They should be honored and they should be memorialized and all these things that our veterans do to protect this country and to protect the people. But a lot of times we tend to forget about the police officers who fight the battle on a daily basis here and on our streets and on our towns and stuff here in the United States. And we have people that, they may be getting a paycheck, but I promise you no one gets into law enforcement for a paycheck. Nobody gets into law enforcement because they think they're going to make good money at it. They get into law enforcement because they really want to protect and serve, and they want to take care of their community and the people around them. And so I think it's important that we take time out to acknowledge that and acknowledge there are people that not only sacrifice overseas and not only sacrifice for our country, but we do have people that sacrifice for our communities also.
I think a lot of people, I think most people appreciate the job law enforcement does. There's the folks that are always watching to get caught or trying to break the law that probably don't appreciate your work. But we do have a system of rules and laws to follow. And
I agree with you. I think most people do appreciate law enforcement. They do realize the need of law enforcement and the validity of law enforcement. And when we think about this, we think about over the course of the last couple of years, we think about 10 to 20 maybe publicized things on the news where officers had gotten shootouts with people and killed people, and they publicize this and the media blows this up. But the thing I keep reminding people that every single day, every day in the United States, there's 5.4 million law enforcement contacts with citizens every day. And so out of 5.4 million every day, the statistics of officers shooting someone innocent or taking innocent people's lives are very slim. They're very few. And with 5.4 million contacts a day, I think law enforcement is doing a tremendous job, and they're doing a great job.
And no matter what profession, there's always going to be some handful of bad among all the good, but the bad seem to get the attention.
It seems so. It seems that way. But I've noticed a lot here lately, especially on Facebook and stuff, and even with the media, we're seeing a lot of publicized good things that officers are doing, and a lot of times they're helping people. I had the newspapers call me here a while back about some good things the officers are doing for the public, and hopefully we'll have an article on that before too long so people can see what they're doing. But I know that last year when we did our awards banquet for the sheriff's office, we pointed out some things the officers were doing and taking extra time out of their day to help the citizens and going above and beyond things that the call told them to do, but they were doing extra things to help our citizens. Officers taking money out of their own pockets and purchasing things for victims, and people who were going through distraught times, and people who didn't have means and funds. Officers taking money out of their own pocket and buying prepaid cell phones for victims and for homes so that people can have contact with their loved ones and have contact with law enforcement and other people about what's going on in the situation. So even here locally, our officers are doing great things, and they're doing great things with helping our citizens. And during this week and this Memorial Week of thinking about those who have sacrificed, we also must acknowledge those that sacrifice every day, whether it's financially, whether it's sacrificing their family, whether it's sacrificing their little league soccer games that they've missed because they're working and because they're protecting the community. I can tell you for many, many years, I missed Thanksgiving and I missed Christmas and I missed a lot of things because of trying to protect our community and trying to protect those that are around us. And a lot of people don't see that part of law enforcement, what officers do.
I think a lot of the reason why a lot of the good things that the police officers do is because they do so many good things, and they do it not for recognition. They do it just to be helpful, and they don't want praise or any kind of they do it for the right reason.
Well, a lot of times what we find out through the sheriff's office is like we have officers that are, like I say, taking money out of their own pocket and providing for citizens and providing things out there to help them. A lot of times you can even go back to their report and read their reports. It doesn't even indicate in their reports they did that. It doesn't even indicate on their officer activity logs and things they turn in that they've done things like that. And a lot of times we don't find out about it until citizens write us a letter or call and say, "Hey, I just want to let you know what your officer did, and I thank him for it, and thank you for what a good job he did." A lot of times we get commendation letters from the public talking about what a good office we have and what a good job our officers are doing and all the great things they're doing in our community. And so a lot of times we don't even realize what our officers are doing unless we get those letters or feedback from the community.
Now, what is the difference between a peace officer and a police officer? Is it the same?
It's the same difference. When we're talking about peace officers, they're talking about all law enforcement. They're talking about police officers, sheriff's deputies, the people that work at the sheriff's office, wildlife, highway patrol. They're talking about all levels of law enforcement.
Okay. I was just curious because I've heard the term peace officer quite a bit, and with it being peace officer.
When you think about when you think about the word police officer, a police officer and a sheriff's deputy is two different things. Or a sheriff's deputy and a highway patrol is different.
Right.
Or, the highway patrol and the SBI is different, But when they use the word peace officer, they're just including everybody into that.
So that's an umbrella that just includes all different branches of law enforcement.
All different branches of law enforcement.
Okay. See, I've learned something today.
It's like saying the military. It includes Marines, Army, Air Force, Navy. It doesn't matter which branch. The military encompasses all branches.
Okay. How did things go at the kids' fishing day?
Oh, it went wonderful. Had a good time out there. I think we had about somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300 kids registered for a fishing day. It was a little bit lower than last year, which we expected it to be lower. We had regional track meets going on. We had a Little League baseball going on. We had some different events that Murphy and Andrews, the towns, were putting on.
And it was a little chilly, too.
And it was a little bit chilly in the morning. And when I first got there, I thought, man, we're going to be way off today. And I thought, it's going to be way low. But then as the sun started coming up and warming up, then people started funneling in. And so by 9:30, 10 o'clock, we had a good crowd there at the pond.
How did the kids respond?
They love it. They have such a great time there. They just a lot of these kids they don't get outdoors a lot. Right. They don't get to do a lot of things away from their Xboxes and away from their cell phones and all these kind of things. So when they come up and they get outdoor and they get someone there to help them fish and they get to reel those fish in and put their bait on their hooks and all that, they really enjoy that. They really have a good time doing that.
It is true. Today's kids are a lot different because of technology, right. Like you mentioned, the Xbox and cell phones. And I saw a Facebook meme talking about how we knew what our friends were doing. Right. I had a picture of a bicycle laying against a park bench. But yeah, back at the good old days, they would go out and hang out with their friends that way and see what they're all up to. But now everybody texts and
well, that's one of the purposes of that fishing day is getting kids outdoors, getting them out in the sunshine, getting them out doing some things, and sparking something in them that shows them that there's a wide world out there ahead of us, and that we can drive by it every day and miss the beauty that's out there and miss what's going on all around us a lot of times because of technology and keeping our heads down. Used to be keeping your head in your book, but now it's keeping your head in your cell phone. Right. And keeping your head down all the time, you miss the world that's around us. And so we want to be able just to have these kids experience the outdoors, experience the sunshine, experience some fun things, just so they can get out there and feel the wind blow and trees sway and catch a few fish and have fun.
Glad you had a good time over the weekend.
We had a great time.
I'm sure the kids had a great time. The families did as well.
Yeah, they did. And families seemed to enjoy it too because, like I say, going back to that of being busy and technology and all these different things that happen, a lot of times the parents miss that one-on-one time with their kids and they miss just spending the day with them and just having some fun with them. So I think in a lot of ways the parents enjoy it as much as the kids do.
All right. Well, Sheriff, I see that this has flown by once again.
Very quickly.
Once we get talking, we just start just going on, and just time flies by.
One thing I do want to say before we go, though, is tomorrow I want to make sure that everybody knows.
Oh, yes, I'm glad you remember that.
We are going to do an active shooter drill at the Department of Social Service building, and they'll be happening tomorrow evening. And so if you see a lot of police cars out there and ambulances and things going on, just know that it is a drill. That it is under controlled conditions and that we are just training and making sure that we are up to speed on anything that might happen around in Cherokee County. And then later on, we'll be doing some of those active shooter drills also in the school system with our school resource officers and police departments. Once the school is let out and the kids have went home for the summer, we'll be doing some training there with the school system also.
We do have the announcement we've been reading today that the Cherokee County DSS is closed. They were closed until 10:30 this morning for training and safety training, and then tomorrow again from 4 until 5 p.m. So is that the time that
that'll be the time of the active shooter drill. So if you need DSS tomorrow, try to get your business done before about 3:30 or so, and that will free those folks up for some additional training.
And if you see a ton of emergency vehicles there and police cars at DSS tomorrow afternoon, that is why. It's a drill. People are still going to ask about it.
Yeah, they still will, because a lot of people drive through and not realize and not know what's going on. But I would try to get that information out there as much as we can, just so that people understand if they see a Facebook post or they hear something on the radio or somebody calling in on Party Line or whatever about all this going on, that they're already aware of what's happening out there.
All right. Well, Sheriff, thank you very much. It's good to see you again. We'll do it again next Monday.
You have a great day.
You too. You're tuned to 1320 AM, WKRK, Murphy, North Carolina, 105.5 FM, 1320 AM, Cable 25, and worldwide at country.am.